So there's so many problems with this. There is no ontological, big word meaning being. There's no ontological ground for morality outside of God himself.
Well, I mean, considering that humans are the ones that create these moral laws, and humans are the ones that abide by these moral laws. Humans are the ones that are making these moral decisions. It seems like humans being the ones to dictate what is moral and immoral is perfectly illogical. Introducing a magical wizard man that exists outside of time, space, and reality that for some reason cares about whether or not you jerk off at night, that is the illogical thing in this discussion. Inserting the magical wizard man is never going to be a better explanation than natural explanations.
Everything else would just be Sam Harris's opinion against Hitler's opinion.
Well, yes, but you would also have a lot of people agreeing with Sam Harris's conclusions versus Hitler's conclusions. Now, Hitler existed in a society much, in similar but different ways to Stalin, in that, Hitler was the end-all be-all. He was the one that set these moral foundations. Like, he was the one to prescribe these moral things. In worldwide economy of societies, it's exactly how in the worldwide economy of societies, each society determining their own set of moral values is just how shit is always operated everywhere. Literally, Frank Turek is asking you to forego what you know about human development over the centuries for his magical wizard dude that exists outside of time and space.
So you need God for morality. You also need God to set purpose, because without purpose, as we talked about earlier, there's no way to determine whether acting a certain way is good because it's taking you toward that purpose, or bad, taking you away from that purpose.
I mean, I don't need God to give me a purpose in my life. And the only purpose on a Christian worldview is just to serve God and do whatever God wants, which leaves you open to just some random fuck telling you that this is what God wants and using your particular holy book in order to justify that, oh yeah, sure, God definitely wants you to purchase that little girl over there with like 3 calves and 5 loaves of bread. You're opening yourself up to a whole host of problems when you start basing your moral decisions on what some wizard that exists outside of everything, time, space, reality, like I've said before, what he wants.
Morality requires purpose, just like football requires purpose. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what a good play was and what a bad play was.
And of course I agree with you. You know that.
Well, what's a good play and what's a bad play? That's a subjective determination, Frank. What the fuck are you talking about? In football, like the good plays, bad plays are subjective. There are plays in which we can objectively make the case that, yeah, that was a bad play. Even if we particularly like that play, we can make a coherent argument as to why that was a bad play. That's all subjective. It's determined by humans. The rules are determined by humans. The rules change over time. You think that football exists now in the exact same way it did back when it was first formed? No, it has to change with society, just like with morality. Morality also has to change with society.
I wanted you to be able to expand on that and just
sure.
And I think it makes sense that just like a lion who kills a gazelle, he did nothing morally wrong. If we are made up of the same stardust, the same mutated evolutionary atoms, but have no moral grounding, there would be no difference between a lion killing a gazelle and another person killing another person. That morally, it's the same.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Thanks, Carl.
I feel like we're talking about this from a perspective of like nature. Of course, nature is amoral, so nature doesn't care. If a lion kills a gazelle, it's the same thing as one fuck killing another fuck in a society. But from a very human perspective, these animals exist out in the wild, and part of that circle of life is that lions hunt gazelles and that's their food. Like, that's just part of the ecosystem. Whereas in our ecosystem, in our environment, we have a society, and part of that society is that we have to coexist together. A society will not survive if it just allows people to go around killing people all willy-nilly and not holding them accountable, not preventing those types of behaviors. So they are literally ripping both of these situations out of their original context, which is fine if you want to talk about it from a very natural perspective, from the perspective of nature, but that's not the space that they're having this conversation in. The context in which they're having this conversation is making moral decisions. And we as human agents, as thinking agents, we are in this situation. So to reference all of this from a very just reality or nature oriented sort of position or context is convoluting the conversation. It's creating an equivocation, and it's a poor analogy on top of that. So it'd be a false analogy fallacy as well. This is so fucking amazing that Frank has his audience trained like this. It's just crazy.